Uh, we're back. Hello. Welcome. What are you buying? What are you selling? How's everybody doing? Damn. We went, dude, this is the worst part of these kinds of streams. Where like all the people who like tuned in tune out and then come back. That part's really rough, dude. You know? Like not everybody comes back. Cause only a few people came back. We went from like 36 viewers, maybe like 50 viewers, I think. It was starting to rise around the time that I left. And now we're down to 6 viewers. And then Twitch side has like nobody. Oof. Oof. That's the big downside of these streams. And it's something I really wish I could change. But unfortunately, it's very hard to. You want to know the worst part? You want to know the fucking worst part? I went and my meeting was canceled. I went and my meeting was fucking canceled. No one told me. I didn't need to end the stream. I need to go. I didn't need to do any of that shit. All right, wasted my fucking time, dude. Wasted my fucking time. I'm actually so upset. And then I got home and I got exhausted and I went to fucking bed. So dumb. So fucking stupid. Okay. Well, where were we? Lamenting my failures is something we're not going to focus on right now. Let's just try to do what we can. So first off, we had the opening pages for the Japanese text translated. Let's start with this. Okay, let's see. Let's start with this. This reads, he got rejected by Chizuru, had a meeting with Ruka, but his expression still doesn't crumble. Interesting choice of words. He got rejected by Chizuru, had a meeting with Ruka, but his expression still doesn't crumble. And there's the 2 exclamation marks. Interesting. I do think like think of it like this. I do want you to think of it like this from like a different perspective. Like you just rejected someone, they show up and they're acting normal, and it's like you can tell things are awkward. You can tell things are a little awkward and kind of weird, but at the same time, like this person's clearly putting on some sort of front, you know? So yeah, Umi's appearance here is very well weird. Right? Umi's appearance here is very well weird. I think this is the most normal Umi has ever appeared. Right? His silhouette almost looks young here. This is the most normal Umi has appeared in terms of like just his silhouette. And I think that's kind of interesting. I don't know why. Something about the way Reiji drew him here. Something about the way Reiji drew him here makes him less intimidating. You know, usually the way Umi is drawn, the specific framing and the presentation makes him really intimidating. Something about this particular shot just makes him feel less intimidating, right? And then this shot right here is even weirder. You know? Like it's really strange. I don't know what vibe I'm supposed to get from that. Like I feel like there's a hint of sorrow or contentment. Like he looks content. But it's very weird. It's very weird. Not to mention, like his part of his face is still hidden. You still don't see the full picture. So, yeah. Maybe Omata was under the impression Chizuru liked Umi. You know, that would be kind of interesting. Maybe Omata was under the impression Chizuru liked Umi, especially considering she invites him, he shows up, you know, and then right after he shows up, which she did not see, by the way, she supposedly comes to the conclusion that Chizuru tells her that, like, oh, what would you think if I had a boyfriend? And then, you know, Umi was just invited there. Now, she doesn't know it's Umi for a fact, but it is an interesting way to create a misunderstanding. Let's continue. This page reads, the face of a professional who charms you, whether as a lover or an actress. Love here love her expression for the actress part. Yeah, and the other thing too, I didn't point this out when we were reading the chapter. The other thing too that this reminds me of is I'll show you another image of Chizuru being an actress having a similar face. Not exactly fully the same, but it's a similarity I wanted to point out all the same. I think it's this one. No, it was one short. Hope I'm one short. Too short. Okay. Knew it. Okay. I was only too short. Not bad. All right. So this expression right here has some similarities to the expression right here. Damn, just work with me, please. It's not that difficult. Whatever. You guys get the point. You got here. Actually, there's a way. Where there's a will, there's a way. I like saw Mommy's officially uncensored. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, I know what they're referring to. Oh, it's the bath scene. Oh, it's the bath scene. I know what they're referring to. Mommy and her titties. There we go. Fucking gooners. I mean, to be fair, Reiji is still marketing towards people who are into gooning. So, you know, we can only criticize so much. I'm just saying. Anywho. Oh, I think the garbage truck's here. Anywho. Yeah, so there is some similarity, right? It's just the way the bangs are done here gives her an impression of, holy shit, she's going to kill me. And then here, the impression is a little different. It's more very focused, tuning everything else out. So there is a contrast, but there's also a similarity. So I just really wanted to point that out. You know, there's a contrast, but there's absolutely a similarity. But the theme here seems to be Chizuru's professionalism. Chizuru being a professional. You know, I think that seems to be the element here, which is kind of important. You know, the element of Chizuru being a professional, right? And what's interesting here is it seems like we're seeing two sides of a professional rather than Chizuru's two sides, right? Okay. Oh, real quick. So someone asked me if the title was lost in translation. So the title by K Manga is My Girlfriend and Her Realization. I was talking to Crumpy. I'm like, hey, is the title weird? He says the title translates to real feelings, actual feeling. Or two, to actually feel, to have real feelings, that to experience personally. So I asked him, so why is it translated to as realization? He says realization was about one's real feelings. I guess it's a bit similar to the second definition. He says that the editor notes that I'm going to read in a second use a similar set of words. So it's about so I said so she realized her feelings are her so she realized her feelings kind of thing. She did come to realize she might have a boyfriend soon. He said, yeah, probably. It's starting to feel real, especially when saying it out loud. So realization is about Chizuru not necessarily starting to realize her feelings, but the feelings being real. Right? The feelings being real. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to share that really quick. So that's kind of what the title's about. The closer maybe interpretation is realization is in there in the writing, but it's more about like real feelings. So maybe so the girlfriend and her real feelings, or the girlfriend and realizing her real feelings, something like that. Or you realize something real. Who knows? Okay, so the last page right here. So the text here from the editor reads, her and his real feelings spread out. She and he express them out loud. Let's get pumped up and set off. Next time is graduation, completion of a course, moving on from outgrowing something, leaving a group or company, quitting. Number 4, graduation. Like I said, Kazuya's gonna fucking pass his test. Like I fucking said, Kazuya's gonna pass his goddamn test. I keep telling you, that's not what's... the thing you think is going to go wrong isn't going to go wrong. They're going to succeed, and that is going to be their greatest failure. That's what Reiji's doing. Your success will be your greatest failure. Congrats, you did it. You did everything you set out to do, and it cost you everything. Right? For you to achieve what you wish to do, a price had to be paid, and you are going to see that price firsthand. That is literally what Reiji's doing. They will succeed. Everything is going to go fine. Nothing is going to get in the way. And that will be the greatest price. So what does that mean? Well, it's pretty simple. Chizuru, in succeeding in her acting and not contacting Kazuya, left him to get hurt by Ruka in some ways. Right? But Ruka didn't steal him, Ruka sexually assaulted him. So, in trying to overcome her guilt, she quadrupled it. In trying to overcome her guilt and protect him and be there for him, she quadrupled her guilt and failed to be there for him. In that same way, you could very much apply that to Kazuya. Flip it over. Let's see what happens. Kazuya transforms, becomes this man who's worthy of Chizuru, does all these things for Chizuru. He wasn't there for her for a fucking second. She did everything on her own. He left her completely in the dark. He didn't tell her shit. Oh, is that really the kind of man he wants to be? He becomes the thing he wants to be. He gets success. He changes his look. He gets ripped. He has everything he thinks he needs to succeed in a relationship, to be desired by by a woman, by the opposite sex. He has all of these things that he thinks will get him what he wants. And what did it cost? Everything he stood for. Everything he claimed to believe. Oh, he wants to be there for Chizuru. He wants to support her. He wants to be there for her. Bunch of fucking lies. That's what this is. Also, I do want to point out, I like that Kazuya's thing has a sun on it. That's very fitting for his character. That's what it is. This arc was always going to be them succeeding. So Chizuru won't care about that stuff on the date. Neither of them are going to judge the other for the things that they worked on. If that's what you're interpreting. Now, Chizuru is going to react to Kazuya changing his look. Maybe she won't like it. I think that would be really interesting. If Chizuru, out of everybody, isn't a big fan of his new look. I doubt it. She may like it. God, if I know. She'd just be happy to see him. But that would be interesting. I also think there's a contextual play in this chapter. In particular, the fact that Umi shows up all of a sudden. And while we get a flash of Kazuya being the boyfriend in this picture, I do think it's really interesting that right after Umi shows up, suddenly the framing is, oh, hey, what if I get a boyfriend? Right? Out of context, it can look a very particular way when you're not in Chizuru's head. Right? When you're not in Chizuru's head, something can look a very particular way. And I do think that's very present in this chapter. It's subtle, it's hidden, and we know the context. But out of context. I think that's important. I think that's important for Chizuru's character a lot, because a lot of what's happening with Chizuru's character is presented in context, whereas a lot of what happens with Kazuya's character is often presented out of context. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. The context Chizuru is missing here is what Umi actually knows. Right? The context Chizuru is missing here is what Umi actually knows. So I just wanted to point that out. 2 weeks, 2 years. Cry me a river. Complain some more. Jesus Christ. Cry me a fucking river. I don't care. Get out. Welcome back. I think I cracked some incredibly devastating realizations here. All right. Lay it on me, boss. And the worst of it all is that all the casual readers are being pen-pipered into a wholesome conclusion on July 11th. Okay, isn't that pretty similar to what I said? I'm just joking, man. I just don't care for those jokes. I'm getting bored of it. I don't know. You know, like, everybody has their own set of feelings, and I'm just not in the mood. Reiji, the self-proclaimed god of micro-expressions. Did he say that? I think he said something along the lines of he's, like, really good at something. He said something along the lines of being really good at something. Or he thought he was, like, the best at something. I forgot what it was that he thought he was the best at. But I will give him credit. It's rare that I read a manga and I see such details on micro expressions. I will say that. It's rare that I read a manga and see so much detail about self-expressions. Or, character expression. There we go. You know, it's like the stuff you see in movies. Where actors like convey little subtle details that give you depth into the characters. Like, literally, the thing Umi describes about the character Chizuru is playing and what Tokakushi likes about his characters is literally what Reiji does. This is what Umi describes here is Reiji self-reporting. This is what this is. It's just Reiji's fucking self-reporting. The professional and the horror of that. I guess there's a horror to it. I don't know if I would call it horror. So yeah, the phrase for the title is Jikan or something like that. It's like realization in that you learn something from deep feeling and not something you realize intellectually. Ah, okay. It's a realization from a feeling. So there is something lost in context. Like, I already thought that, but there is something lost in context. So the word in the cover page for lover, kobito, which is the same word translated to boyfriend that she uses in her bed at the end. Oh. Oh. So Chizuru says lover. I'm going to have a lover in 2 weeks. Interesting. So there seems to be some weird implications that she plans to act her way as the perfect girlfriend for Kazuya. I don't know if that's the implication. That's not how I read it. That's not quite the implication that I read. I can see where you would get that impression, but that's not the implication I read. Anyways. Well, let me eventually tell Chizuru even after the July 11th date. See, you know, I just realized something interesting. Umi not telling Chizuru is pretty similar to Minnie not telling Chizuru. Wouldn't you say? That's pretty interesting. I want you to think about that for a second. Umi not telling Chizuru about Ruka and what might have happened with Ruka is pretty similar to Minnie not telling her. In fact, let's go to that really fast. Something kind of similar happens. Their conversation ends. And you see her back. I can't ever talk to her about Ruka-san. I'll take it to my grave. What are the odds Umi might have been thinking something similar? What are the odds? That's why there's a bit of a sad expression here. Right? A very subtle sad expression here. Maybe her walking away from him is thematically the element here. Right? Maybe her walking away from him is the thematic element here. Right? I think it's pretty thematically fitting. He was trying to tell her something as he showed up and she leaves. It's almost like, and the fact that Chizuru thinks about it too, it's almost a direct parallel. It's almost a direct parallel to when he was rejected. This entire sequence is almost like a direct parallel to when he was rejected. Yeah, there's a parallel here between his rejection and this entire sequence. And Chizuru interprets it as awkward. I do think it's interesting that Chizuru is the one who seems to view this as awkward, whereas Umi doesn't really seem to view this as awkward. Is Umi Christian? I noticed the cross necklace. I noticed that too. I don't think so. I think it's a fashion thing. I don't think he's Christian. I think it's a fashion thing. There could be a religious symbol here. You know, in particular, the reason I mention this is because during Hawaiians, Reiji does use a lot of Christian symbols, and Chizuru as a character is theoretically crucified. You know, on a like on a narrative level, Chizuru is literally crucified in Hawaiians. She goes to the church to pray, and the church doesn't open up for her, and then her supposed loved ones literally crucify her in front of everybody. So yeah, even the anime uses that symbology a little bit, where Chizuru is seemingly Sleeping Beauty, and she's the only one who wears a crown that happens to have thorns on it. She's the only one who wears a crown made of roses with vines, and it literally looks like it. Like, come on, it's like two on the fucking nose. Umi's a pretty tragic character, but I fear he's now untethered from Chizuru entirely now. I don't know if I would call him straight up tragic, but Umi is interesting. I see this small moment for Umi as his personal 218, and rather than using in-your-face sexual intrusive thoughts, it's almost imperceptible inner crumbling. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. That's if we go with the reading that Umi is in fact in love with her. But Reiji went out of his way to create a contrast. So I don't know. I think to me, there's definitely a contrast between Umi's feelings and maybe something along the lines of like Chizuru's busy and he would just get in her way. You know, what happens here feels more in line with what he tells Ruka, that Chizuru is busy with her play right now and he doesn't want to bother her, and he almost did the thing he didn't want to do. You know, he was complimenting Chizuru's shit for her play, and then all of a sudden it have backfired. See what I mean? Umi has the important detail that Chizuru has yet to learn is needed. Chizuru could easily come away after the date, and so Kazuya is weird. I wonder what's up with that. And Umi is gonna say what's up. Umi really has no sense of awkwardness approaching the girl who rejected him just to tell her information he knows about Kazuya. Except he didn't. I think this is what the cover's about. We're not seeing the real them. We're seeing professionals the whole time. I think a lot of what this chapter is you just seeing professionals. People looking professional. People staying professional. They don't break the professional. until the very, 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 very end. And you only get snippets. You only get hints. You don't get the full picture. Now, here's an interesting thing. I know what I said, but it still hasn't sunk in for me. I don't blame you for what happened back then. What's she referring to here? This is a little confusing. What is she referring to here? Oh, she must be referring to the rejection. Maybe she's referring to the rejection. Maybe this is what Chizuru is referring to. She's referring to the rejection. I don't blame you for what happened back then. I also find it interesting. Why is the picture down? Why is the picture down? My immediate guess was that Chizuru was like hiding from her practice, but that doesn't make sense. Yeah, why is the picture down? That's her mom's picture, by the way. What are you talking about? That's clearly Sayuri. Chizuru doesn't put up her mom's picture. Chizuru does not put up her mom's picture. We could say this is Katsuhito. Since she's already holding a picture in her hand, we could say this is Katsuhito. That could make some sense. So maybe this picture that's down is Katsuhito, and Chizuru is looking at Sayuri, which could theoretically be pretty symbolic if you think about it. She's not looking at Katsuhito just like she's not looking at Kazuya. Because you're right, she's holding a picture in hand, there's a picture that's down right next to it. That's weird. No, it's her mom's frame. What are you talking about? How could you possibly know? We see all three together? When? Next couple pages? What the hell? Wait, why is her... So she put her mom's picture down. Why? Also, is there an editing issue here? There's something here. Let me check the Japanese. Yeah, it's still there. There's some sort of editing problem here. I don't know who noticed that. Yeah, there's an editing error here. Huh. So that's her mom's picture. And that's Katsuhito's picture right there. You theoretically see the frame. Why? Maybe she views Sayuri as her mom and her mom not as her mom, but she'll keep the picture there. I do think it's interesting she started putting up her mom's picture. She wasn't doing that before. She definitely was not doing that before. Oh, is that a soccer thing? This chapter is full of weird clues. This chapter is full of very strange clues. It's like things are changing behind your back and you're not noticing. And what the hell's this? Is that translated in the... Is that translated in the English? Oh, it is. Oh, it is. Barely visible, though. To zoom in. Every cloud has a silver lining. Become one with acting. Maybe I can see it better in the scans that are leaked. Blue Lock logo. Oh my god, you're right. It does look like Blue Lock. I was wondering why it looks so familiar. Okay, let's see if I can zoom in on this. Every cloud has a silver lining. Inner harmony. Become one with acting. Make every moment count. Become one with acting. Maybe that's like a hint as to what's going on. Maybe JoJo has a point. That could be a hint as to what's going on. Where Chizuru is like too in tune with acting. Weird. There's a lot of subtle hints all over this chapter. That's very strange. And I bet the lines she says have a parallel to what's going on. Yes, that was like Elena's doing. Yes, that was like likely Elena's doing. That's not true. What exactly did I do wrong? Please don't make false accusations. What's so important about that letter anyway? False accusations. You know, that dull dress really suits you. Didn't you hear? The number 8 is very particular, I think. Didn't you hear what Femina Patty Sensei said? Every baby is born innocent, and yet... I think that's very symbolically interesting. Every baby is born innocent, and yet you see Chizuru's mom right in the middle. And that's contrasted by the kiss. A loss of innocence. Almost as if it's implying people become horrible. And she breaks the script. Oh, she looks really cute. It's a very different look for Chizuru. I sound so stupid saying it out loud. Yep, we see the date right here, July 4th. This is... Wow, this is getting weird. This chapter has a lot of hints and clues. This chapter is like filled to the brim with hints and clues. Which is pretty funny thematically speaking, because you're literally... Umi's presence here is literally a hint or a clue. And then the chapter itself is filled with hints and clues. I think that's almost Reiji playing us. They're like, Umi almost spills something and then just leaves. Which is thematically fitting in line with the whole chapter where it's like filled with that kind of stuff. Just hints and clues. Preserving inner harmony, becoming one with acting. Every close has this every is it every cloud or every close? Is that what it says? Let me double check. Oh, damn it. Every cloud has a silver lining. It's all about who she conceives of herself as a person. It's all about how she conceives of herself as a person. Yeah. Yeah, these do sound like things Chizuru would think about herself. Become one with acting. Every cloud has a silver lining. She's trying to find a silver lining in, like, shitty situations. Inner harmony. Chizuru's trying to definitely find some sort of inner harmony, when she's a total mess. Make every moment count. Which is, I think, a very interesting last one to read. The smallest one is make every moment count. And I think that's really interesting, considering I would say both of them technically aren't. She's making every moment count when it comes to acting, but is she making every moment with Kazuya count? Definitely not. Maybe it's hinting at Chizuru and Kazuya's fight. I think what Reiji is doing is hinting at how much is changing in the background. I think that's kind of what Reishi's kind of hinting at. Everything is changing in the background. So many things are happening in the background. So many pieces are moving that you're not seeing. These characters' lives don't stop just because we don't see them. And Reiji definitely showed that in the first 3-month time skip. Right? In the first 3-month time skip, everyone's like, oh, where's this person? Where's this person? And then when you eventually interact with them again, Reiji was literally like, hey, look, their lives are different. They've been living while you were, like, existing in an alternate universe. Right? That not everything revolves around the main characters. And just because we haven't been seeing Chizuru, it does not mean her life has not been changing. It has. Right? Despite Chizuru's immediate physical appearance not being different in any way, shape, or form, it doesn't mean her internal has not changed significantly, just as Kazuya's external changed significantly. I bet a lot happened with Chizuru that we just simply did not see. And I like that Reiji is giving us hints of all of that happening. That Chizuru has been changing. Right? Not physically, like Kazuya, where he's, like, physically changing, but emotionally, internally. Something is happening to her internally. She's changing. And we're getting clues of that all over the place. And a lot of the clues with Chizuru are not manifesting, like, on her actual physical person, but around her. I think that's the way that it's happening for Chizuru. For Chizuru, the way she's changing is how things are manifesting around her. Right? So, for instance, her notebook, right? Every time we saw this notebook, it didn't have any of this stuff. Now it does. Then you have the pictures, right? We didn't really used to see Chizuru's mom's picture here. I think there's a chapter we can check that can show us that wasn't there before. I think it's this one. This is when we first saw Chizuru's new home. And I think there's a part where we see the photos. Right? So we saw these things, right? So that you can see the notes, but they're invisible. Here's the altar, but it's out of frame. Oh, see, yeah, it's there. We didn't notice it. Right? It's there, but it wasn't intentionally panned to. Right? Yeah, she put her mom up. We just never noticed it. We completely glazed by this. It was there the whole time, but now Reiji actually focuses on it because maybe he noticed people didn't notice that. Right? I bet nobody noticed this. I fucking didn't. I don't think anybody noticed it, but her mom's picture is, in fact, right there. Cool little detail. Maybe she really is avoiding me. I have no idea how much she knows, but I think it's safe to say she hates me. And I think it's interesting that that's positioned between them, right? So you were getting those small little tiny nods, right? That many of us probably didn't fucking notice, right? And then here Chizuru is saying this line again, right? We see this exact same line in this chapter, but now it's like more zoomed in, more personal. Right? Now we're definitely seeing this in the chapter, and it's a lot more personal. Yeah, so the chapter is like filled with this stuff, where there's like constant hints of things moving around. Right? Chizuru has this entire relationship with this person we have never seen. I want you to process that. I want you to process that. Chizuru had a relationship with Omata over here, right? Her manager, who's her support system, essentially, this whole time, and we never saw that. We got like 2 pictures of a phone call. And we didn't really view that in a very different way. We had no clue about this person. And suddenly we're getting backstory that we don't understand. Right? She's sharing things with us that we didn't really experience. She talks about something Chizuru can relate to, but we never could. Right? We could never understand what the fuck they're talking about. Chizuru can. Chizuru can understand this. And I think that's very important. There's this disconnect happening between us, the readers, and Chizuru. There's this really big disconnect that's happening between us, the readers, and Chizuru, and Reiji is essentially slowly filling those gaps. Right? The little information he's been feeding us is to slowly start filling the gap, so that we can start like creating that proper bridge. And what Reiji is setting up here, to me, I think, is to show that we didn't really understand her this entire time despite knowing her. Reiji suddenly giving so much more to Chizuru's background is adding to that theme that we did not really understand this character despite knowing her for 400 chapters, because we didn't, in particular Kazuya didn't, try to really get to know her. And like learn about her relationships and her history and everything she's been through. And I think that's kind of like very important as a setup. Thematically too, that when he flips the lid and Kazuya realizes how fucking stupid he's been, that he thinks he understands who Chizuru is, or like there's no difference between Ichinose and Mizuhara, only to come to the realization maybe he didn't know anything at all. And that's kind of what this chapter seemingly kind of sets up. This chapter is showing us a contrast between the professionalism we have known this entire time and the real kind of Chizuru. And I think that's kind of important if you really think about it. The cover shows us 2 different versions of Chizuru who are both working. A consistent professionalism that's present when she's an actor and when she's a rental, despite them being so fucking different looking, right? They're totally, completely different looking, and yet it's her being professional. Why is this important? Because when you get into the chapter, it's incredibly personal to her. It's very, very personal about Chizuru. It's not professional. A lot of what we're seeing with Chizuru in this chapter is almost the antithesis of professional. If anything, it's almost consistently breaking professional. Have you noticed that? Almost every time we've interacted with her, what we've seen with Chizuru is the antithesis of professional. Not professional. However, what is Reiji not showing us the professional? He describes it. Reiji describes the professional. He describes how other people perceive the professional and how they can recognize the professionalism and the execution and the effort she's putting in. But we don't see that. We're intentionally only being shown the Chizuru who's a little flustered and a little more timid and who's falling apart and not being professional. And I think that's kind of important. There's the contrast being struck. And I think that's because Reiji is trying to highlight, no, these things are different. That's what I think he's doing. These things are different. You are wrong. There is a difference between Chizuru working and Chizuru's personal life. They are, in fact, different. You are incorrect. And I think that's important because A lot of people cannot distinguish between those two things, especially when it comes to something like acting, something like rental, or something like sex work, where they cannot possibly conceive of a person drawing boundaries and drawing a line. And wouldn't you say the cover seemingly reflects a line? There's literally a white line cutting through the middle. This is thematically important too for Umi's character. Because literally when Chizuru rejects Umi, it's literally called drawing a line. When Chizuru rejects him, that is the title of that arc, drawing a line. And now, visually, there's no talk of a line here, and yet a line is being drawn between Chizuru's acting and Chizuru's rental. And yet in both, she's being professional. Why is this important? Because wouldn't you say that's present in Kazuya's interpretation of Ichinose and Mizuhara? Where he's like, I don't see a difference between the two. But there is a silver line, there is a line in between. And that line is, she's staying professional as Ichinose and she's staying professional as Mizuhara. And that's what Kazuya is catching. The paralleling professionalism of some sort, or the paralleling things he's seeing between the two and clicking them together. And it's clear what the kiss meant to Chizuru isn't the same as what it meant to Kazuya, as Chizuru is still thinking about the kiss. Chizuru, to this moment, is still thinking about every time we fucking see her. We think of this. She thinks of the stupid kiss. Whereas Kazuya only occasionally thinks of the kiss. Whereas she's still very connected to this Kazuya, to that kiss. Kazuya is somewhere else. He not only doesn't look like this, he doesn't think of the same things. And I think that's kind of important. You know? Kazuya's goal doesn't seem to be with Chizuru. Kazuya's goal seems to be to... How do I describe it? Seems to be to grow. Kazuya's goal seems to be more to grow than to be with Chizuru. And I think that's really interesting as a contrast. So we get Omada's backstory. I mean, we got hints of it, but I don't know if we would get her entire backstory. Reishi could. I mean, if Reishi's invested. I think Reishi can tell us a lot about a character without outright giving us their backstory. I think Omata might be one of those characters where you don't necessarily need her entire backstory to kind of understand who she is. Granted, you have been getting some. The kiss me is a complete destruction of her inner harmony to Chizuru. I could kind of see that. I could definitely kind of see that. Yeah, the kiss is kind of a complete destruction of her inner harmony. Greetings, had to change my question, but with the cover, is it me or does Chizuru kind of look like Mommy? If Mommy had longer hair. I know there's aspects regarding whether Chizuru reconciles with her. So yes, you're completely correct. That is the point. What is the character Chizuru is playing? Let's read what Umi says. Right, let's read Umi's exact wording about Chizuru's character. You are amazing. I could feel the sorrow hidden behind Linda's bullying. Just as if I was reading the original work. Think about that for a second. You can feel the sorrow behind Mommy's bullying. Here, I'll just read what I wrote. I wrote something about this. I'll just read what I wrote. Chizuru looks like Siha rather than Mommy. She is a blonde girl who wears American clothing. In particular, she has the American flag on her clothes, and she's being a jerk. Don't look at it literally. Think about it. She is a blonde girl who dresses in clothing that has the American flag, and she's being a jerk. I want you to think about that. Don't look at, oh, she has the same hair as Siha. No fucking shit, she has the same hair as Siha. She can't have the short hair. Like Mommy, that would be too on the nose. That'd be fucking stupid. We all have another side we can become. Chizuru plays a bully in her play, and that character's bullying is rooted in pain. Just like Mommy's bullying and a lot of her actions are rooted in what? Her fucking trauma. That she ultimately starts using as an excuse. Mommy's actions reflect her inner turmoil. Mommy's actions reflect her sadness and her self-hatred and her anxiety and her insecurity. There's literally a character just like this in Life is Strange. Her name is Victoria. It's the same thing. She seemingly has everything and she's still fucking miserable. And she bullies people because she's insecure and sad. This mirrors Mommy. You feel her pain through all of her actions, her bullying, her treatment of Chizuru. If their places were swapped, Chizuru could have become Mommy. They're two sides of the same coin. And if you don't believe me, Reiji said this. When I was talking to Reiji in his Twitter space, he literally said, had Chizuru and Mommy's circumstances been swapped, Chizuru could have become Mommy. Your environment shapes you. You're not born a certain way. Your environment shapes you. You become a certain way. Mommy became this because of her environment. She doesn't know how to change. She's trapped. And now Chizuru is playing a character and understanding a character that could very well reflect Mommy's character. Why do you think that is? It's very simple. She can understand her. So she can start trying to forgive her. So she can start trying to see Mommy from a different lens. In that same way, could she not also start seeing her own mother from a different lens and starting to understand Mommy through a different lens? Maybe she never understood these people at all. Oh, look, it's the thing I was just describing to you. Just as maybe we might have not understood Chizuru at all, Chizuru is that same way. Maybe she never understood Mommy at all. Maybe she just thought she did. Maybe she was just focusing on her actions, not why she was doing what she was doing. Right? That is so thematically interesting and is filled with dramatic irony. That is like literally dramatic irony on its fucking head. A character learning something about someone else just as we, the readers, are learning something about her. Damn, I didn't catch the parallel to Mommy. I think I mentioned it as soon as Chizuru played this character. I swear I mentioned it as soon as we saw Chizuru's character 2 weeks ago. Like the moment I saw she was blonde and she had dude, the first time you see Mommy in the swimsuit, she's wearing an American swimsuit. Like literally straight up United States of America on my fucking titties. Bruh, and it was even chapter 8. That's so funny. In the anime, it's even more blatant. Right? Here, it's like less blatant, but it's pretty clear. Like, it's the stars, the 50 states, the stripes, Star-Spangled Banner. Like, it's all there. In the anime, it's like way more blatant. Like, let me see if I can find an anime version where it's just like, oh, it's so fucking obvious. Which is really interesting because Chizuru's swimsuit also had stars. But whereas Mommy is presented like through American stars, Chizuru's is like more about dreams. Which is really funny, you know, the my favorite thing, the lie of the American dream. There it is. Rejoice and be horny. Rejoice and be horny. Mommy's not American. No. Mommy is not American. But she knows the American look works for her. Like, she knows she's blonde, dude. She knows the American colors literally fit her. So she uses them. In that same way, Linda over here literally has the fucking flag on her. I don't think that's subtle at all. Especially considering the date that we see Kazuya and Mommy go on in the very beginning of the series is introduced in the same arc that we see Mommy dressed this way. That is not a coincidence. Reiji is intentionally striking a parallel between Mommy and Chizuru's characters. Okay. One thing I want to point out to you, Chizuru is double blushing here. It's not because Umi is saying, flavorful words to her. It's because she likes to be complimented on her acting. And Umi happens to be doing that. Right? These are the things Kazuya was not saying. Umi is doing the thing Chizuru always wants from Kazuya, which is to be complimented on her work. That's why she's double blushing here. Yeah, but it also clearly makes her feel a little uncomfortable, just a tad. It meshed perfectly with Tokagushi Sensei's direction, since he really values giving characters depth. You completely nailed it. I'm glad you think so. I'm pretty sure your performance made you his favorite. Tomorrow's the real deal. I'll do my best. I know you have more experience than me when it comes to Tokagushi Sensei's works, Umi-kun. I guess that means he's either watched them or acted in them. I wonder if there's nuance in there if she says like he either acted in them or he's just interacted with them. I do find it interesting that when Umi does this, you don't see his eyes. That's something that's something that really caught my attention. Why do we not see his eyes here? Why don't we see what he looks like? Right? Why do we not see what he looks like? And Chizuru's entire demeanor changes. So does his. Why? I want you to notice that Umi hesitates here. I don't think we've ever seen Umi stutter. Maybe like once or twice. I don't think we've ever seen Umi stutter. And then he decides to leave after. That to me is an indicator of someone who's uncertain. Someone who's a little uncomfortable with this and does not maybe want to do this. This also acts as a thematic parallel to something. What do I mean? There's a thematic parallel between what Umi does here and what Chizuru does with Ruka. Did anyone catch that? So, Chizuru calls Ruka, and she seems like she's ready to face this head on. And then she says, I actually feel relieved she didn't answer. I don't like this. Then you see Umi seemingly do the same exact thing. You see Umi seemingly do the same exact thing. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chapters later. Right? He thinks he's like ready to do this. He can't. I actually feel relieved I'm not doing this. There's a chance we could understand Umi better through understanding Chizuru. In that same way, we could understand Umi better through understanding Minnie. Like I explained earlier, there's theoretically a parallel between those two characters because both Umi and Minnie meet Chizuru and don't tell her about Ruka. Both Umi and Minnie meet Chizuru and don't tell her about Ruka. Maybe that's an indicator this isn't for them to say. Maybe that's a possible indicator. Maybe this isn't for them to say. Right? It's like think of it from Reiji's perspective as a writer. Let's try to look at this from Reiji's perspective as a writer. Reiji is like, Umi, you get to be here. Right? You get to be here. Chizuru is part of the acting. Chizuru is in the acting world. You know this director. You get to be here. Heck, I'll have you be invited here. You don't get to say this. This is not for you to say. I think that's kind of a good way to look at it from a writer's perspective. This is not for you to say. It's not for Minnie to say. But there's an interesting contrast here. Minnie is in many ways not Chizuru's friend. She's Kazuya's friend. So she'd never tell Chizuru because she's Kazuya's friend. Now flip it onto Umi's head. Umi is Chizuru's friend. I don't give a shit what you think. I don't care. Okay, let's get that the fuck out of the way. I do not care what you think. If you don't believe Umi is Chizuru's friend, I don't care. I do. Okay? I do. The story has labeled him as her friend. When he shows up, he's literally called her friend. I don't give a shit if you don't think he's her friend. However, as a friend, he doesn't tell her. Right? In that framing, it can make you question, okay, is he being a friend looking out for her? What kind of friend doesn't tell her this? Or you could say maybe he's being a friend and not telling her now because she's currently busy with her play. I mean, her performance is tomorrow. Let's think about that for a fucking second. Her performance is tomorrow. Imagine telling someone who's just starting to succeed in her fucking play, right? Everything is going perfectly for her, and you tell her this. What kind of friend are you? What kind of partner are you if you are actually interested in her, right? What kind of lover would you be if you shot her in the foot just before her greatest performance, just before the spark of her career? What kind of friend would you be? You don't do that. Okay? You don't fucking do that. You step the fuck away. In that sense, Umi is being a good friend. I would argue Minnie's being a terrible fucking friend. Because Minnie, if she had told her sooner, could have possibly resolved a conflict way down the line. Because when Chizuru was going through this, it was still very early. When Chizuru and Minnie met, it was still really, really early. They could have had time to resolve things, and Chizuru could have still succeeded. Umi finds out way too late. That's kind of the contrast that's present here, I think. Minnie finds out really, really early. Umi finds out way too late. So Umi can't do anything at this point. He has to wait. Minnie could have done something and chose not to. And I think that's the contrast. In that way, I would say you could interpret Umi as a better friend than Minnie. Minnie's been a shitty friend from the jump. I don't think so. I think Minnie is what happens when good intentions go awry. Even people with the greatest intentions can start believing their own lies. And that's pretty much what's going on in this. That's what the story is about. I don't agree that Minnie was a terrible friend from the jump. I don't think so. She did wrong things. She fucked up, absolutely. She definitely made a lot of mistakes. And I would argue she's kind of like a separator disguised as a support or a uniter. Right? That's kind of what Minnie is. Minnie tells them to unite, it separates them. Right? So, in a sense, yeah, technically she was always shitty, but I don't fully agree with that because she did help a lot of times throughout the story. So that's why I somewhat disagree with that. Yeah, Minnie schemed, Minnie did shitty things. I wouldn't say she was a shitty friend from the jump. I would argue now she absolutely is a shitty friend. And she doesn't know it. Just as Kazuya doesn't know he's the villain. Just as everyone doesn't know they've been cheering the villain on. Thinking he's the hero. Heck, We are doing that. And then there's the LARPers or the people who just don't like Kazuya at all, period, and only see someone who's shitty. When that's kind of part of the huge mistakes of a lot of storytelling, where when people see a villain, that's all they see. There's this current movement in storytelling right now where people just want villains to be villains. You know, they're just bad for the sake of being bad. And I think that's stupid. I frankly think that's stupid. I think you can have a villain who does genuinely heinous things, is relatable, but it's still very much fucking heinous. Yeah, and that's Mommy's character. Mommy does genuinely horrendous things. It doesn't mean she's irredeemable, she's a monster, she can never come back. That's not what villains are. Sometimes you can get that. You can get like a force of nature villain. You can get an irredeemable villain. Those are kind of fun sometimes. I'm not saying you can't have those things. I'm just saying the desire to just have a villain be a villain and nothing else is boring. Villains with motivations that are relatable and understandable are much more interesting, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree. I remember that you made the comparison last chapter, but I, for some reason, didn't put 2 and 2 together that her character that she's playing would literally be like Mommy. I read that as the exact opposite. I see it as his Jakan. He's never been more certain about what happened. I see Umi as the antithesis of Kazuya, but not necessarily the villain. So that's not how I view Umi. I view Umi as a character who appears like the antithesis of Kazuya when he literally is him. I think Umi and Kazuya appear different when they are more alike than they could ever realize. Because Umi reflects Kazuya's internal helpless externally. They are very, very similar characters. Umi appears like he is not helpless in any way, shape, or form. And yet, he is helpless to seemingly help the people he cares about. Seemingly. From what we've seen. Right? Can't help Chizuru for shit, that's for sure. He can't help Chizuru for shit, that's for sure. Hell, we don't even know what he was going to talk about here. I'll be real. He's wearing a cross on him. If anything, that's possibly an indicator of him wanting to be honest. I think Umi wearing a cross is an indicator of his desire to be honest. Which I think people would not catch because they were like, why the fuck is he wearing a cross? You know, I saw someone say he's the Antichrist, and I'm like, bro, I need you to dial it back. Y'all are like too heated. I need you to dial it the fuck back. I need you to calm the fuck down. This ain't Twitter. If you wanna lose your fucking shit and like go full conspiracy theorist mode, go to Twitter. Elon would love to have you. You will feed the fire that is his fucking cesspool. Okay? Or the trash fire. You'll feed his fucking trash fire. Go there by all means. But this is not the place for that. I need you to dial it the fuck down. As for Umi being the antithesis of Kazuya, I never actually thought so. I've never actually thought Umi was just straight up the antithesis of Kazuya. I would think he's more of an inversion. He's more of an inversion of Kazuya, whereas Kazuya feels internally helpless and that he can't do anything. He, in fact, can do things. Umi is the opposite. Umi appears like he has everything together and can do whatever he wants, and that is literally Kazuya's perception of Umi. That is literally Kazuya's perception of Umi. That Umi is a character who can do anything. Right? It must be easy for him. When it actually could very well be the total opposite. It's not easy for him. And he can't actually do anything. He succeeds in his career and he sucks in everything else. And I think that is more of a good indicator of what Umi is. He's not necessarily the antithesis of Kazuya. He's just an inversion of him. In that sense, could you not say they're really similar? If he's the antithesis, he would be the total opposite, which he isn't. If he's the antithesis, then everything would come to him easily. His looks would match his internal, which they don't. I don't think so. Okay, we get it. Okay, you can stop talking about your Toru theory. Bro, this is... Okay, you want to know the problem I have with your theory? If you keep repeating it to me over and over and over again, even if it ultimately comes true, I'm not going to like it. Let me enjoy it. Let it be real for me. Okay? And this is something I need... I know, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite here. You know, sometimes I tend to remind people a lot of something I enjoy, but... And maybe this is a lesson for all of us here. Don't keep reminding me of your theory, even if it's true. Let me experience it for myself, even if it's true. So that when it does ultimately happen, I'm not annoyed that you're right, I'm just surprised. And if you're wrong, okay, you're wrong. Cool. I love conspiracies. I'm 50-50. I think it's important to recognize when a conspiracy is utterly fucking bonkers. And when a conspiracy has, like, actual legitimate backing to it. You know? But yeah, so let's just dial it down on the Umi being Toru thing. Even if it's real, just dial it down a little. I don't need it every time you show up. Okay? I don't want you to be the Toru guy every time you show up. I think Umi's cross is just what you said before. He's an overly hated character that you might as well say that he's been crucified. It's more symbolic. Or he's a character, or they can view it in a different way. Umi is a character that is very much synonymous with lies. Right? A lot of people view him as a character very much synonymous with lies. Okay? Here comes Umi wearing a cross. As if he's here to try and tell the truth. Right? You associate the cross with honesty, with being a good person, with doing the right thing. That's not really what it's become these days. Like, bro, if I see a Christian these days, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we fucking go. Like, unfortunately, Christianity and like what Christianity stands for has been fundamentally misunderstood with Christian nationalism, which is, you know what? Let's get into it. Fuck it. People don't know the difference between patriotism and nationalism. Let me break it down for you. If you're a nationalist, you are loyal to the people in charge of your country, regardless of whether it is fundamentally against what your country supposedly believes in. If you are a patriot, you will challenge your country, but you fucking love it. You are challenging your country out of love. Nationalists will never challenge their country, even if their country is fundamentally straying away from what it's supposed to stand for. A lot of people are nationalists these days. A lot of people are nationalists these days, you know? So, like, if anyone so much as criticizes the U.S. now, people will flip a fucking lid. I'm like, bro, being a patriot is you being willing to criticize something because you want it to be better. It's the same as criticizing media, you know? Like, I'm okay with criticizing something I love because I want it to be better. This, I'm just enjoying the ride. I've yet to have a few things that, like, I rarely have things to complain about with this story because I just like it. It's not doing something I immediately dislike. To other people it is, and I'm like, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from, but it's Reiji's story, and I'm fine with that, and if you don't like it, that's okay. You know, it's like, I recognize the flaw that it could not appeal to everyone. That's fine. Yeah, I can get it if you don't like this. But it's not like a video game where the video game has to be fucking intuitive. You know? And it's like, I understand, I'm a very critical person. Like, you guys tend to see the positive in me a lot. But that's just because I don't have a whole lot of stuff I can be overly critical about here. Here, you want me to be a little critical with this? I do think this arc is dragging a little bit. But I think if Reiji pulls off the payoff, the drag is worth it. Because every single thing we've been presented, it serves a purpose. Okay, I will admit, this arc is long and tedious. But that shit can fucking work if you do it correctly. And I think for the most part, Reiji has been doing it correctly. And it can fucking work. And if the payoff is what I think it is, it will actually be monumental for the series. Like, Reiji would like actually pull one hell of a Hail Mary. Magnum opus kind of shit. Okay? That's why I think this is fine. Despite it not being specifically what I personally desire and feeding my immediate instant gratification, there is still a lot in this I can very much enjoy. And that's fine. And it's because I am willing to step the fuck away. I can step away from this. I can be, you know what? I'm chill. It's cool. And then come back and be like, oh, that's that good shit. When I come back, I'm like, yes, that's that good shit. Like, I will say, I do feel somewhat rewarded for this chapter, having sat through a 2-week break. I'm not gonna lie. I think Reiji did a great fucking job with this chapter to reward your 2-week break fucking no chapter bullshit. I feel rewarded as a reader. I don't feel like he wasted my fucking time. Did I get them confessing? No. Did I get them fucking? No. Did I get them kissing? No. And yet, I still feel rewarded. Fate is critical about an arc. You know it's bad if it comes to that. I don't think it's bad. No. I just don't feel the need to constantly be critical. Like, if I really don't like something as Reiji's doing, oh, something is wrong. This is how you'll know. If I don't like what you're doing, something is, like, terribly wrong. And I do take the time to, like, think about it and process what I'm thinking. God, I'm holding up my opinion in high esteem now. I feel like a jerk. How about this? If something here is, like, me being very overly critical, then something is wrong. How about that? Considering I love this so much. I do tend to be lenient. I will say. I do tend to be lenient with the things that I enjoy. I'm lenient in general. Like, I think sometimes I'm a little too lenient with people, you know? I try to actively better myself, but sometimes, like, it comes at the cost of my own internal suffering. What the fuck am I saying at this point? Anyways, let's get off this topic. Let's see. It's Chizuru focused chapter. That's probably why you like it. Something lacks for me here. I might need to let it sink in, but I like how Chizuru is becoming aware of her love towards Kazuya. Maybe it's because it's, again, a setup chapter. I mean, this has all been set up. Who you kidding? I think this is less of a setup chapter and more of a... You're starting to get clues of the what's actually going on chapter. I think my interpretation is far away from normal readers now that I'm having a hard time seeing it that way. Jojo, here's a trick to analyzing things in a good critical way. Learn to view it from the reader's perspective. Create a contrast between where you fundamentally are right now and what the readers are feeling. It helps you actually see the bigger picture. Because that's what Reiji's doing. Reiji is writing his own story, but he's very keenly aware of how people feel and what people are thinking in regards to his story. It helps him create a better perspective on what he's writing and how to create and how to write it. In so doing, it'll help you see the things that I'm catching. We should just talking about upcoming date. Kazuya is shown at the end of the chapter, and he's going to take the exam, so it's a setup for both of them. Well, Kazuya is going to pass. The teaser for next time is graduation, so he's going to pass. Like, I think that's very obvious. But what's going to be interesting is how is Kazuya going to react to passing? What is that going to mean? I think that's going to be, I think next chapter might actually be important in a lot of different ways. For instance, what's it going to mean for Kazuya and Mami's relationship? That would be it. Right? Mami has had this entire time to seemingly live her little fantasy, which I want you to think about for a fucking second. I want you to think about Mami and Kazuya's relationship through her little thing. What is the last chapter we had with Mami? What did Mami do the last chapter before they take their exam and go their separate ways? I want you to think about this very clearly. What the fuck did she do? She sits next to Kazuya and gives him a gift. What did Chizuru do just before Kazuya left? She gave him a little gift, a little keychain. Huh. And then next chapter, Kazuya is going to graduate from this school. He's going to get his license. And he's going to move on. And they won't have their way of seeing each other. And Mommy's little fantasy is going to end. Just as Kazuya's fantasy of living in Chizuru's home is ended. So this creates a very interesting parallel. Mommy is Kazuya. She's living in her own little fantasy in this little time that she has with him, telling herself it's all going to be okay, but not really changing anything. And now it's about to end. And what's even more interesting, what is the date? The date is July 4th, 7-4. Mommy, Nanami, Nana means 7, 4 is the number of death. Their relationship ends on the number of death. Bro. It's gonna die. Reality caught up. What's she gonna do? Right? Some last final action to try and be with him? Just give up? Just live in this little fantasy and tell herself it's okay? It's almost like Kazuya verbatim. What did Kazuya tell himself? Oh, I'm just gonna enjoy this while I have it. And then when it inevitably just ends, what happens? Right? He doesn't want it to end. He fucking hates that it's ending. It's almost like telling yourself, I'm okay with this until the end, but not actually doing anything is a bunch of fucking horse shit. Independence Day have a connection to the story? Yes, absolutely. Thanks. I totally forgot about that. Thanks. Yes, Independence Day absolutely has a connection to this. Where did they... Okay, when they went to Odaiba, what is the first thing Chizuru sees when she gets to Odaiba? The replica of the Statue of Liberty. What was I telling you earlier about Mommy's character? She dresses in the American clothing. The American dream of freedom. Do you see the sudden symbolic reasoning for why Mommy would wear the American fucking flag on her clothing? Because she desires freedom. She wants to be free. A character who touts freedom, who literally represents freedom, is a slave. I want you to think about that. She wears the American flag on her clothes, and she is a slave. Fucking dig into that a little bit. Maybe there's some fucking social commentary on the U.S. presenting people the illusion of the American dream. When a lot of people are just fucking slaves. It's on the fucking head. I'm like, bro, that shit's been there since chapter 1. We just never clocked it. That shit's been there since chapter 1. We just never clocked it. Yeah, so no, there absolutely is a connection. July 4th is the day of independence. Thematically, there's a reason for that. Kazuya getting his driver's license means he's independent now, right? He can drive. He can go wherever he wants. He has control over the vehicle that he drives. Nobody needs to drive him anywhere anymore. In that same way, it is kind of thematically important for Mommy's character. Because, cool, she has his driver's license. Is she actually independent? Cool, you have a driving license. Do you have a car? Are you actually independent? Right? Are you actually free? Are you actually independent? I think it's being on July 4th is in some ways alluding to the element of, well, the illusion of freedom. in many ways, does mommy actually want freedom? Does mommy actually want freedom? Or is she okay, you know, staying the way that she is? Escaping into her own little delusion? All right. Let's go back to what mommy said in the past. There it is. We need a delusion tier list. I mean, Kazuya would win. Kazuya's S tier, bro. Followed by maybe Minnie. Mommy, then Ruka. And then Chizuru would just be under not delusional. Minnie is Delulu too. Yeah, I literally said Kazuya followed by Minnie, followed by Mommy, followed by Ruka. And then Sumi is like the least delusional, but still kind of delusional. And then Chizuru's not delusional. I think Chizuru out of everyone's not delusional. I think for me, Ruka is number one. Ruka is Delulu for sure. But the reason I put her so low in the list is because I don't. She's actually aware. She's actually aware she's being delusional. Other characters, not so much. Kazuya, like, actually tricks himself into thinking he's delusional, therefore he's delusional. It's like delusion inception. Deluluception. Kazuya literally goes under deluluception. He thinks he's being delusional, which makes him delusional. Like, Kazuya actually undergoes deluluception. Anyways, the reason I come here is specifically this particular scene. Where is it? Job application. That can be tedious, huh? What kind of person are you? What are your strengths? I feel like they should be the ones telling me the answer to that. She doesn't want to find out who she is and how she describes herself and what she wants, how she wants people to perceive her. She wants other people to tell her that. She is content being a slave, letting other people tell her who she is. And that is a dramatic irony because it parallels Kazuya. He even says, yeah. He even agrees with her. What exactly are my strengths? I would prefer they tell me. I don't want to find out. Or I can just invent random strengths I don't have. Kazuya's greatest strength is his grit and perseverance. That is Kazuya's greatest strength. That dude got fucking perseverance. He will outlast all of you motherfuckers in bed. Watch him the first time he has sex, he just gives in immediately. I'm like, no. But then literally the first time Kazuya has sex, he's gonna nut instantly. Right? I'm gonna say it right now. The first time Kazuya has sex, he will nut instantly. However, the next time it happens, or maybe the next 2 times or something, that man will have perseverance of a god. That man will never stop. He will hold the line. Why do I feel like the last week before the day is going to be wild? Well, this chapter is the beginning of volume 50. So let's clear that up. Isn't this chapter the beginning of volume 50? Or am I incorrect? Right? Isn't this the beginning of volume 50? Like, didn't we just start? 50 volumes, holy shit, let that sink in. Yeah, I'm aware. We are halfway to 100. We are halfway to 100. That is crazy. 50 goddamn volumes, bro. We are halfway to 100. And this should be significant. This should be significant. I think it's already starting. I think this volume is going to be loaded. That shit is a revolver fully loaded. That shit is Leon's goddamn magnum. Okay, that shit is Leon's fucking big ass ball dick magnum. The thing that will like blow 4 zombies' heads off if they line up and correctly. Which you can actually do, by the way. That's one of the tricks you can do. I think it's 3 zombies. There's like a trick in Resident Evil Revelations where there's these zombies that come out of the hallway and there's 3 of them. And if you line them up perfectly, you can blow all their heads off. So yeah, I think this chapter is gonna be loaded. My shelf is stacked. I bought both the Japanese and the English, so my thing is stacked. But yeah, no, I think that shit's really loaded. I think this volume is already starting off with a lot, where I can definitely see some sort of shift occurring in this volume. I'm not sure what kind, but there will be a shift occurring in this volume. 100%. We are only... What is it? We are only 7 days away. We are only 7 days away in manga, so there's only a week left before July 11th. We're really, really close. And the first big hurdle that needed to be overcome is going to be overcome next chapter, which is Kazuya getting his driver's license. So, to me, I think that's an indicator, right? So to me, this chapter has some hints, right? It's already telling you from the get-go, this Ruka secret can't stay secret for long. Right? It's already almost reached Chizuru's lips. Right? It's already almost reached Chizuru herself. It's already almost there. Right? And just as we're almost there in terms of Chizuru finding out about Ruka, we're almost there to Kazuya getting his license. The beginning parallels the ending. Right? Umi meets up with Chizuru. It's the big meetup that a lot of people were dreading. In contrast, Kazuya meets up with mommy, quote unquote, by going to his driver's license, right? The big thing we've been working towards this whole time. Kazuya is here for it now. Right? His hair is so weird. Bro, I've seen his hair for like over 40 chapters, and it's still like weird for me. Or no, is it 40 chapters? Almost 40 chapters. For 37. I've seen this man's hair for 37 chapters. It's still really fucking weird. The time is a little weird. Like Kazuya said, he was supposed to start 2 weeks from the 23rd. However, Chizuru says the night before the play starts that there's 2 weeks until her getting a lover, which I guess implies July 11th. They're not explicitly stated. And then we get literally confirmation that it is now July 4th. Yeah. Reiji's never exactly been great when it comes to time. Here, you want like a solid criticism against this manga that's just like factual. Reiji fucking sucks at like conveying time well in the manga. Reiji's like in story time management is garbage. Like he actually sucks. Straight up. Dude fucking sucks at time management in story. Just straight up. And it's like a consistent problem too. Like time is just not conveyed very well, which I think he's very keenly aware of. And it's literally an in-narrative storytelling beat now. Where he's literally talking about time traveling. Right? Where he's literally talking about time traveling. Which I think is very thematically fitting. It's weird too, since he's so good about laying out the other details. Yeah, but it still happens. Like, everyone got their own weaknesses. Just because you're good at laying out details and, like, managing your time in real life, it doesn't mean you suck at it in manga. Like, think of it like this. Reiji is so good at managing his time in his real life that he sucks at it in the manga. He pours all of his energy in managing his time in his real life that in the manga he fucking sucks at it. That's a good way of looking at it. Because have you seen Reiji's schedule? It's badonkers. His schedule is actually fucking crazy. Like, that man, like, time management maxed his schedule. And, like, in a way that's really healthy. Which is very intimidating, because I can't do that. Linda White is a mix between Mami Ruka and Mizuhara. No, Linda White is just Mami. Maybe Ruka. Mizuhara, I mean, there's a parallel in there, the fact that she's acting, but I don't know where you would get Mizuhara from that. The character is clearly not Mizuhara. You could say maybe she's the other coin of Mizuhara. Is that what you mean? She's the other coin of Mizuhara, where she fundamentally represents Chizuru's acting, just as Mizuhara represents Chizuru's rental work. If that's what you mean, okay. But she's not Mizuhara. She's the other side of Mizuhara, if you will. The other side of the coin. Just as Mami isn't Chizuru, she is the dark reflection. If you say Linda White is like the dark reflection of Mizuhara, I can maybe agree to that. If we say she's Mami, I 100% agree to that. If we say she's Ruka, I'm a little more like in the middle. I've yet to see anything Ruka-esque of this character. I could see a bit of it. Like, Ruka is kind of like that too, where she's very like insecure and puts stuff down, but Ruka isn't a very good liar. This character seems to be a very good liar. Or at the very least, good at like playing it off and controlling the scene emotionally. Ruka's greatest weakness as a character is she cannot control a place emotionally. Ruka's greatest strength is physical control. She is a physical manipulator. She is a physical abuser, not an emotional one. And I've yet to see anything from this character that conveys a physical form of control. However, I've seen a lot of emotional control, which is Mami's forte. That is Mami 101. Mami's entire thing is that she emotionally controls and manipulates everyone. Shiori's hairstyle. I mean, technically, Chizuru is also Shiori in this instance, because Shiori was the girl who initially got Chizuru's position, and here's Chizuru getting it now. So, in a sense, yes, there is a parallel to Chizuru's current direction and Shiori's earlier direction in the story. Shiori being the girl who initially got Chizuru's place, and now Chizuru replaces her, which you literally thematically see happen when Chizuru goes to reject Umi. The girl that was initially playing, who gets tired and passes out, that's Shiori. That's the girl who initially took her position with the same exact director, whom now Chizuru is replacing and taking over for. I wonder if Ruka or Kazi are going to tell Chizuru about Ruka's sexual assault. It's going to get found out regardless. And I think more importantly, it's something to really dig into. Ruka's sexual assault didn't just begin with what Ruka did in Kazuya's house. That's something I think a lot of people are not understanding. They don't truly understand the true gravity of Ruka's actions. It did not just begin when she sexually assaulted him in his house. It was there, like, very early on in the relationship. If not borderline the beginning. You know? Like, and that's something for Chizuru and for Kazuya to really dig into. How deep-rooted this trauma from Ruka actually is. And I think that needs more than a chapter, it needs an arc. What Ruka did to Kazuya needs a fucking arc. And it's really, like, Chizuru needs to really understand how much Kazuya's been hurt, but Kazuya also needs to understand how much he's been hurt. This needs a fucking arc, like a whole ass arc, to explore the gravity of what Ruka has actually done to Kazuya. What she did to him on his birthday, what she did to him before Hawaiians, what she did to him when she took him to when she took him to the Love Hotel. What she did to him just in how she started the relationship. She blackmailed him into a relationship. In that same way, Kazuya has to also recognize a part of what he had to play in that relationship with Ruka. Where, yeah, there were times where it was okay. But the birthday arc was where it went far too far. Like, it's just like, oh, okay, there's no recovering from this. And yet it persisted. You know? Like, I think the birthday arc was one of those instances that needed to be talked about, and it wasn't. And I think Reiji knows it. Mostly because, like, of the way he goes about depicting it. And mostly in a way that, like, is really interesting, because I think what Reiji's currently trying to do with the story is really explore and understand characters from a different lens. Where he's okay seeing them as bad, because that's also part of why they're lovable. You know? Like think about it. I want you to think about this for a sec. Right after Reiji hosts an event for Ruka to celebrate her character not being in the manga. Like, I'm talking like like a few chapters later, maybe like 10, 20 chapters, she sexually assaults Kazuya. I want you to think about that. People invested in this. People gave money into this. This isn't Reiji shitting on them. A lot of people will interpret it this way. This is not Reiji shitting on them. This is Reiji telling them, this is part of the character that you love. And that's fine. Right? That doesn't mean the character is terrible and not worthy of being liked or celebrated. Now, I understand, like, a lot of us need to draw a very firm stance on sexual assault. But that's the thing for Ruka's character. She did sexually assault Kazuya. I don't believe she's a bad person. I don't believe she's beyond recovery. And I don't believe it was just purely her. Kazuya had a part to play in this. He chose not to end the relationship with Ruka. He let her sexual awakening occur because he didn't want to fucking deal with it. Delusional level 9,999. No, that's fine. If you think me delusional, that's okay. And partially it's Kazuya's fault too. I meant Ruka. What? I'm very confused. I'm so confused. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro? I'm so lost. Ruka doesn't give a shit about anybody as long as she gets what she wants. She's a horrible human being. Not even mommy crossed that line. No. That's very inaccurate. That's very, very inaccurate. Ruka does care about people, and her struggle is literally that contrast. Her current struggle in the manga is a direct continuation of her struggle in Hawaiians. Ruka's struggle in Hawaiians is about what she wants versus caring about other people. In the end, she chose to care about other people. That was Ruka's decision. She chose to care about other people instead of herself. Now Ruka is having a very interesting conflict. She really wants something, and she cares about other people. And they're slamming heads. And she has to recognize that right now what she's doing is actually doing the complete opposite. She's foregoing caring about other people in favor of what she wants, and she doesn't notice that. Because she wants this thing so darn badly. And that is how you end up with this interpretation, that Ruka doesn't care about anybody else. That's not true. She does care. I would argue Ruka is a sweetheart when she actually recognizes what the fuck she's doing. Ruka is not a terrible human being. But she did something genuinely awful. And coming to terms with that and recognizing it was awful and that she's crossed a line and that she's done something very, very, very bad is important for her to recognize. And in some ways, that's how she can start truly figuring out what she actually wants. In that same way, I think it's a very stupid statement to make that Mommy has not crossed this line because Mommy is an emotional abuser. She emotionally manipulated Chizuru while she was suffering through grief. She almost tore a family apart intentionally, knowing what the fuck she was doing. She used everyone there. She abused her money. She used her trauma as an excuse. She hurt people who were vulnerable and scared and alone. She is, in my opinion, in Hawaiians, the epitome of piece of shit rich bastards who emotionally manipulate and hurt people, but because they didn't physically harm them, you don't blame them for it. I would argue what Mommy did is 10 times worse. If not, at the very least, on par with what Ruka did. Because at least, Mommy, we know for a fact she was doing it on purpose. Ruka isn't necessarily doing this on purpose. Ruka doesn't even fully recognize what she's doing. Mommy did. Mommy knew exactly what the fuck she did. And she had to look at herself in the goddamn mirror and see the monster she became. That is significantly worse than a kid doing something horrible and not recognizing what the hell they just did. It doesn't excuse it. I say this every fucking time because people will immediately get very like, oh my God, you're excusing Ruka's character. No. Ruka did something horrible. She's not a horrible person. Mommy did something horrible. I would say she almost became a horrible person. It doesn't mean she's not irredeemable. Or can work through it, or can become better. It doesn't mean there's not a person behind those actions who could be something else. Anyways, got into a whole thing. So Miho will be Chizuru to Shiori after getting chosen? I don't even know what Miho is, to be honest. I have no clue what the fuck Miho's gonna be. I think Miho will come back much later. I think Miho has nothing to do with this arc. I think Miho does not have anything to do with this arc, and she's not going to come back until much later. If she even does. She could come back. There's one line that hits she could come back, and it's like, I'll do something later. So she could come back later. But her returning needs to serve a purpose to the romance or the love in this story. I don't really see that here at the moment. I don't really see that here at the moment for this. At the moment. Like, maybe there is, and I haven't clocked it. But I don't know what it is right now. Okay, I'm really curious why Chizuru is in shadow here. And if this is in fact her mom's photo, does she not want her mom to hear this? If so, why? What does she not want her mom to see? But she can show to Sayuri. That's a very, very interesting element here. She can show something to Sayuri, but she can't show it to her mom. She doesn't want her mom to see. What's even more interesting is that Chizuru is in shadow. Right? Chizuru is in shadow here. And that's really interesting to me. Even Sayuri is shown in shadow here. Right? I don't blame you for what happened back then. Maybe we're in shadow because we don't know what this means, but maybe she doesn't either. Right? I think this is a hint about Odaiba. And she's in shadow because she's not seeing it clearly. Come with me to apologize next time, okay? Yeah, I know even Japanese fans were confused about this. Yeah, even Japanese fans were confused about this. They're like, what the fuck does it mean? What if, not saying this is likely, but the graduation instead for mommy, and she uses this as her grand confession, similar to what said about Chizuru possibly making a grand gesture? That's a fair assessment. I mean, I was saying mommy could do something. I was saying mommy could do something, so absolutely. You're not too out of the ballpark. Kind of sounds like she did Eddie, maybe because the future she says he became a different person or something. What? Eddie? Who's Eddie? And Kazuya falls for mommy. And Kazuya fails, but mommy passes. She confesses, but Kazuya rejects, and this jump starts Kazuya's villainy, maybe. Huh. So you think Kazuya's gonna fail? I think it would be more interesting if he passes and it doesn't matter to him. I think it'd be interesting if he passes and it doesn't matter to him. Like, he doesn't care about it as much as he thought he would. Something like that. Kazuya needs to be a failure from his own success. It hits more than simply just failing. Yeah, and I just don't see the appeal of Kazuya failing again. I just don't get that, you know? I think thematically it makes more sense for him to succeed because it would parallel the Odaiba date, where everything seemingly went right to the build-up. Kazuya got everything he needed to succeed in the Odaiba date. As a parallel to that, Kazuya gets everything he needs to succeed here. And it still doesn't matter. This ain't SpongeBob. What does SpongeBob have to do with this? What brought SpongeBob on? What? That threw me for such a fucking loop. Now I'm just lost. That threw me for such a fucking loop. I was stun locked for like a second. Getting his driver's license. To be fair, I've never seen SpongeBob. I only know it from the memes. So. I only know it from the memes. What if they don't go to Mother's Farm and just have mad sex? Peak fiction, but I don't know. Peak fiction, but I don't know. I think Kazuya will accomplish his goal, but it will be meaningless for him because July 11th will never happen. That would be more accurate. No, that's not the issue. It's not that July 11th will never happen. I think if we do that, it would be dumb. I think it would be significantly more effective if July 11th does happen. We get through it all. We get something, but it's not what we thought we would get. That's, I think, makes a little more sense to me than just, oh, this thing doesn't happen or this thing doesn't happen. And we just kind of be looping over and over again. All the things you predicted kind of happened except this. Really? I mean, my predictions are like kind of 50-50, but I kind of tend to lean more towards what I think Reiji is doing narratively, which is why I can predict things. Context: Miss Puffs gives SpongeBob his boating license later at night. She has a dream of all the accidents he will cause and steals his car and takes away his license. Oh my god, that's fucking hilarious. But I don't think that would happen in this particular case. SpongeBob fails his driver's license 36 times. But you just said it wasn't SpongeBob. But you just said it wasn't SpongeBob. Now it is? Make up your mind. It's been 2.5 years since we met, and at last you're working with Tokaguchi-sensei. That means a lot to me. You only have a minor role this time, but I bet you'll get a bigger one next time. I'll be quite busy too. I can tell you're going to be a big shot soon enough. I just know it. I'm really curious. Why does her telling her she's going to be a big shot make her think of Kazuya? Right? I didn't think of it at the time, but why did that trigger Chizuru thinking about this? Is it similar to something Kazuya said? That actually has me intrigued. I'm curious if someone like Mute will catch it. If it's something similar to something Kazuya said. Yeah, I feel like that would make some sense if the words she spoke have a parallel to Kazuya in some ways. She said something that sounds similar to something he has said in the past, which is why Chizuru thinks of him. That could make some sense. Wait, did you find a good guy? Tell me about him. Oh no, I'm just asking. It's just a hypothetical. Ah, geez, you never talk about that kind of stuff. She's just like Sayuri. Chizuru doesn't talk to her about this shit. When I was younger, I couldn't stop talking about the boy I performed with after I got backstage. Interesting. Well, let's see. I try to stay out of your private life. I know you're not the type to go to host clubs and such. Yeah. And I've known from the start that you've been all about acting, not idle stuff. If anything, you've been through a lot this year, and I know your background. You've been through a lot this year. What does she know? Right? She's been through a lot this year. What does she know about that? Besides maybe the struggle with acting. I know your background. Impressed how far you've come all on your own. Oh, maybe Umi was invited by Omata because maybe Umi had a part to play in Chizuru getting the role. That could make some sense. Or maybe Omata just knows him. Maybe Omata just knows Umi. So that's why she invited him. You know, oh, they're buddies. I'll bring him over. Maybe she doesn't know anything about like Umi's confession to Chizuru. That's why she invited him. We'll see. We might find out later. Um, you've been through a lot this year, and I know your background. I'm impressed how far you've come all on your own. Yeah, look at Chizuru's face here. Omata Izumi's manager too. No, I doubt it. I very much doubt it. Yeah, Chizuru's face here is interesting because it shows like she's like, that doesn't seem fair. That she thinks I did it all on my own. Maybe she thinks like she had a part to play too. How is your other work going, the rental stuff? I'm thinking about quitting it. I see. I think management's job should be about keeping their talents happy. As long as you're happy, then I'm fine with it. And here I am with my engagement being called off just a month ago. Jesus. If you find a boyfriend, be sure to introduce me. It's interesting how she uses the same language Umi uses. I want to see the lucky guy who managed to win the heart of my dear Chizuru Ichinose. It's like a mix between Umi and Sayuri. Right? She talks like she's her mom, but she also talks like, uh, she speaks of winning someone's heart again. Right? That element seems to be a repeating theme: winning and losing, winning the heart, winning in a relationship. This chapter kind of captures that feeling of the just before something starts. Like, have you ever had something where it's like really big and you need to succeed and shit, and you're like anxious and a little worried? The chapter kind of captures that vibe really well, you know, and I think it kind of captures what's going on with Chizuru too. Like it captures it for Kazuya and it captures it for Chizuru. Kazuya is literally just about to take his exam, and Chizuru's just about to start her big play. Mata doesn't know about Chizuru's imposter syndrome. Well, I think it's less that in this particular case. I think Chizuru might be thinking, that's not fair. You put an effort too. I got here a lot in part because of you. I think that's kind of more of the look I see when I look at Chizuru here. And there's a parallel between this look here and a look between Kazuya and Chizuru. Let me see it. Maybe it feels alien to her. Maybe it feels alien to Chizuru. But let me show you what I'm referring to. So it made me think of this. If love is something meant to be built, then it's not fair unless both sides work on it together, right? This feels a little alien to Kazuya because he feels like he's worked on a lot of this on his own. Right? So Chizuru's words kind of feel alien to him here because it feels like he's worked on it on his own. In that same way, these words from Omata here feel a little alien to Chizuru because Chizuru doesn't think she's done this all on her own. Everyone keeps telling her she's done this all on her own, but she didn't. She had Omata's help, she had Kazuya's help. Like, she's had people supporting her. She had Sayuri's help to some degree. Sayuri was there like her emotional centerpiece. So Chizuru doesn't feel like she's come here all on her own. Heck, even her grandpa. Her grandpa supported her on her dream. Everyone technically supported her on her dream during the movie arc. Even Ruka. Even Minnie. So that's why these words feel a little alien to Chizuru. Because it doesn't feel like it really properly represents her, and it's not giving credit to Omata-san, who had a huge part to play in why Chizuru even got here. And we did also get an update on Rental. She has not quit it yet, but she wants to. Right? She hasn't quit it yet, but she wants to. There's a lot of interesting things in this chapter. Feeling a little tired. I'm not too sure what else I want to talk about. Here. Give me 1 sec. I gotta double check my schedule. My entire work is like fallen into disarray. And it's just kind of a pain in the ass. So I gotta check what my schedule is tomorrow. And what work is gonna be like. God, tomorrow's Wednesday. It's so weird. Oh. Sweet. That's a pretty short shift. Okay, that kind of works. Okay. So tomorrow shouldn't be so bad as long as I sleep well. Okay. Tomorrow I might be able to start a little early for the chapter analysis. The big goal is to sleep a little better. That is the goal. I gotta sleep a little better. That has been my goal for a hot minute, to get some better sleep so I can actually stay long enough on streams and not feel like death half the time. Okay, I think I'll talk for like 10 more minutes and then I'll call it for now. And then tomorrow we can have a longer stream. Okay, let me set up the camera so I can come back. Setting up the camera. Okay. Watashi ga kita? Yeah. Tomorrow we can read Crumpy's analysis. I have what's their how do I read their name? Payukiyama? Pukiyama. Something like that. We can read Payuki's analysis over here. I'll just read it right now. It's fine. Okay. Fuck. Okay. Let's make this our last thing. We'll make this the last thing for today. I'm a little tired, but I'll read it. No worries. Deep L. That's not Deep L. Okay, from the top. If it'll load. There we go. Page 1, Umi. Page 2, Chizuru at work. Page 3, it was the best. Page 4, a story. Page 5, gone now. What happens next? What do you think? If a good person, wishing for happiness, a lucky person, a sense of reality. Back then, muttering to myself, flashback. Oh, I see. Restless, certification exam, all right. An unnerving encounter. The cover illustration really conveys Chizuru's professional attitude. Miho-chan was overwhelmed by this atmosphere too. Yeah, like Chizuru when she's like full professional mode is pretty fucking intimidating. Let's see. What was that Omada-san's doing, right? So that's kind of like what's being conveyed in the cover page. It's like the how intimidating she looks here, it's like, oh god, I don't want to fuck with that. Right? You want to back off. Okay. What's that Omada-san's doing? The kind of interaction is definitely beyond Kazuya's capabilities. That said, Chizuru's response also has a hint of social niceties to it. There's clearly a wall there, more so than when she's interacting with Kazuya or the people around him. Is she referring to when she's speaking to Omata? Interesting. So there's a bit of a social wall than when she's interacting with Omata, because she's still ultimately her manager. But that's really interesting. Omata is still ultimately her manager, so there's a bit of a social wall. Okay? Or maybe she's referring to Umi, right? Maybe she's referring to Umi. The way she's talking to Umi has a bit of a social wall. Regardless, it's interesting, so let's keep going. So she's going to try to bring that topic after all. Okay, so he's definitely talking about Umi then. Okay, so he's referring to Umi. There's a bit of a social wall, and Chizuru is has these like social niceties in the way that she's talking to Umi. Okay. But Umi was going to bring it up after all, but it ends up falling flat. Meat, this and that. Oh, because Omata just cares about fucking meat. Is Omata turning into a meat character? It's awkward, and Chizuru seems to be struggling with it too. It looks like there's a moment coming where they'll need to clarify things or find a compromise. I sound like a veteran otaku. Well, there's no doubt I'm the biggest veteran otaku of them all. Maybe she's referring to Omata or something. That reaction. Well, that's probably her stance. Oh, well, Omata does seem like an otaku when she's like popping off that Chizuru might have someone. Come to think of it, she said she'd quit rental if they started dating. Of course, Omata-san knows about rental too. Omata-san's really going through it, lol. It was pretty recent, just last month. Oh yeah, the fucking Jesus, the breakup. I'm curious about what exactly that time refers to when Chizuru's talking to Sayuri. The thing that came to mind is things she needs to apologize for are quitting and walking a pretty gray line for the sake of her fake boyfriend. Okay. Part of the reason she ended up with a fake boyfriend was because Grandma Nagomi and Grandma Sayuri caught her at the hospital. So maybe Grandma Sayuri is in on it too. Oh, maybe she needs to apologize to... Maybe she feels the need to apologize to Nagomi, and that's why Sayuri would be there. Oh, that makes some sense, right? That makes some sense. But we're not sure what it refers to. Like, it could very well just be Odaiba that she's referring to. Okay. I wouldn't know if there are interactions that haven't been depicted yet, though. The final book reading, whoa, this description. She's not fully focused, is she? Given the kind of associations she's making, maybe she can see the direction she's heading, whether she'll answer or not. Finally, 1 week to go. The graduation test is here. If he fails here, he'll definitely miss the deadline. But still, wearing that t-shirt just because it's test day is way too obvious. The preview title is Graduation. Is that a reference to the certain Shiranoyuchi thing? Lol. Wait, what? Well, I guess it means he'll be able to graduate, lol. That, though if he couldn't, that'd be the funny in its own way. Besides, even if he graduates from driving school, it'll be for nothing if he fails the written test. Oh. Wait, there's a written test? On top of succeeding in driving school? I guess that makes sense. Oh, so there's 2 tests. Oh, there's 2 tests. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, in the US, there's 2 tests. You take a written test first, and then you do a driving test. The written test is significantly easier than the actual driving. In Japan, I'm assuming it's the opposite. You do a driving test first, and then you do a written test, and the written test is harder. It's like the total reverse. Here, it's like easy as fuck. The written test is a goddamn joke, dude. The written test here is a goddamn fucking joke, dude. Even the driving test was kind of a joke. It wasn't fucking hard at all. Okay. So, I avoid running into Umi-kun by getting called away, Chizuru. I talked to Omada-san about boyfriend and girlfriend. Omada-san is taking a watch and see approach. right? That's important too. Amata just kind of takes a wait and see approach. She doesn't like engage directly. As long as you're happy, I'm chill with it. Even though it doesn't feel real yet, the day is getting closer. Will Kazuya be able to get his license? What kind of reaction will Amata-san have when she sees him? With these questions in mind, let's do our best for another week. Okay, well, tomorrow's going to be loaded, probably. We're not only going to read Reddit, we're going to read Mute. I'm going to see if I can write something, too. My work shift tomorrow is pretty short. I can maybe start at 12. Actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say we're going to start at 11, so that way I start at 12. I know myself, motherfuckers. I know myself, motherfuckers. So I'm going to say we're going to start at 11, so I can start at 12. My God. Okay. Why do I feel that Umada sees Kazuya right now? She would call him out. She is an actress. Chizuru might even call him out. She'd be like, yo, you fake as fuck. You fake as fuck. Yeah, you do that a lot. Hey, I know myself. I know myself. Eddie Man, from first-hand experience, I was told by the former girlfriend that it was still very into me, or her friend walked right up to me and said, you don't hurt her again. Okay. This arc has a lot of references from Perfect Blue. Is that what this is? Is that what this is? No. Don't give me anything weird. Don't give me anything weird. No, stop that. Just, there we go. Fucking Joey Wheeler. Joey Wheeler. I wasn't ready for that. Just fucking Joey Wheeler. I'm still trying to understand the relevance of this cover to the chapter itself. I feel like I haven't quite figured that out. Okay. Well, regardless, I'm a little cooked, friends. I'm going to call it for today. I'll see you tomorrow for hopefully a longer stream. I will see you tomorrow for hopefully a longer stream. My family's almost home anyway. And we'll go from there. Kazuya is going to be stuck with a family business company car, and it's going to be his rinky-dinky car pulling smoke and bumper taped as a joke. That's the thing. It's like you got to wonder, where the fuck is Kazuya going to get a car? Unless he rents one, which would be really thematically ironic if Kazuya rents a car for his date. It would be really thematically ironic if Kazuya rents a car for his date. Like, because he doesn't have one. Where the fuck's he going to buy one? He's not going to take the family car. He's probably going to rent one. Which makes sense. Renting cars is pretty common in Japan. Renting a car is very, very common in Japan. Like, you'll see that a lot in anime, too. You know, people rent a car and they drive somewhere. Okay, gang. I'm going to call you. I'm going to see you later. I'm a little cooked. I'm going to go get some rest, maybe eat something, check on my mom. And I'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we'll start early. That is the goal. Hey, baby, I got a Porsche hop in. Bruh, my God. Get in, loser. We're going shopping. Get in, loser. We're going shopping. Okay, I'm gonna take my time, try to figure out what I can piece together from this chapter, and we'll go from there. Bye, gang. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had fun. This was a fun chapter. Lots of hints. Lots of fucking hints, dude. Filled to the brim with fucking hints. There's so many goddamn hints. So yeah, that's gonna be interesting. Figuring all these hints out and figuring out where all this is going. I'm gonna go pass out now.